So here we are backstage at Colborne Avenue with Adrian Mears for my inaugural 5 in 5. Influenced by the American brass chats and whatnot, I thought I'd do our Australian version. And I'm lucky enough to catch Adrian on his last night in Australia before he heads back to Europe. And we'll ask him a few questions, 5 actually, give him about a minute each or so to learn about his career. So thanks, Adrian. The first thing, I guess, is how did you start playing, and what was your education in music?
Thorough education came through this English brass band, local brass band, which had a very nice, integration into performance pieces and rather classical, test pieces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And of course they did their commercial stuff, but that was a real, initiation into learning music and playing it, articulation, rhythm, reading, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and that was in Newcastle?
That was in Toronto, actually.
In Toronto, yeah.
Close to Newcastle, yeah.
And then did you go on further and study music at a tertiary level?
Then I went on and studied, I had some vague lessons on the trombone with one teacher, and then I went to the conservatorium. There I had one teacher for 1 year, and then he left. Then I had no teacher, and so it went on. And then after I left the conservatorium, I really wanted to further my studies, and went to New York and then had some great some lessons with like Steve Touray and Conrad Verwick, Slade Hampton, and before that was anybody who came through. Oh, especially also Robin Eubanks. That was a great influence and friend.
Fantastic. And so your career started obviously in Sydney, in Australia, and what was your first sort of break into professional playing here in Australia?
It was just with friends and playing in pubs and trying to get any sort of little gigs here and there.
Playing jazz, or did you play all sorts?
I played all sorts of stuff. I also played some Dixieland. I played some club dance music with some local dance bands. And I did everything, and it was a good initiation to prepare myself when I came to Sydney, because there you were sort of...
Oh, just got a special guest come through.
You were sort of washed, and put into all the various situations, from the Broadway sort of shows to salsa bands, funk bands, the daytime studio jobs which I had in those days.
Yeah.
Which was completely different types of music. And then on top of that, you had your big bands and the small jazz gigs which came along every now and then.
Yeah. And so that was in Australia, and then you've gone on to have quite a fantastic international career. So what was your start? What and whereabouts was your start overseas?
I moved to Munich first up because I'd been there just shortly and managed to pick up some tour with a sextet, so I played like Art Blakey sort of material. And so from that connection I went back to Munich and settled there for about 8 years, and then I just sort of came onto the scene, and there wasn't many players who could read well and improvise like I could. So I sort of filled a lot of holes. I became always the lead trombone in every big band I went into, and a soloist. Many bands would call me a soloist and stuff.
Oh, fantastic! And so from there in Europe and Munich and wherever else you've been, what are some of the highlights? A couple of highlights of your career so far that stand out to you?
Well, there's been there's always different highlights in terms of musical highlights or financial highlights.
Well, let's say musical.
And I chose mostly to search for musical highlights.
Yeah.
And I'm at a great position where I can choose. Pick and choose. So the stuff with my own bands has been really great for my own personal growth. Mm-hmm. And I've got a great band with a New York piano player, Austrian drummer, and a couple of Swiss guys, and that's a great band. highlights, I don't know, I've been involved in this workshop in Frauenfeld in Switzerland, and it's every 2 years, and I've been there for now like I think about 14 years. So through that I've played with people like Cedar Walton and Benny Goldson, Lewis Hayes, Lewis Nash, Jimmy Cobb, Eric Alexander, did I say Cedar Walton?
Yeah.
Guys like Dick Oates, Ira Coleman, George Mraz. I mean, there's a
few highlights there.
A lot of highlights. That's a good one. Also, the band I'm in with Carla Blake and Steve Swallow.
Yeah.
That's a lovely band, brass quintet, and those two love pies. Apart from that, it's a lot of different groups that come and go.
Yeah. That's fantastic. What about the future for your music? Do you have any projects at the moment, or have you got anything in mind that's going to come to fruition, you think, in the future?
Well, I'm waiting at the moment. There's a couple of projects which have already been recorded, which I'm trying to sort out how I release them.
Yeah.
One is my new electric trio, which I incorporated with didgeridoo and electronics, especially looping, live loops. So nothing's pre-recorded; it's all live.
Yeah.
It's really funky, odd meter, Afro. I play keyboards and sing and percussion and do everything actually. That one, and there's a new recording I just did with my quintet, so it'll be the third CD. That's all ready. I've done a big band recording which needs to be edited and get out in the market. And you know, I started my own record label, so I want to start bringing them out on this. All my new recordings, I want to have 100% artistic, you know.
Is that got a name, or is it on the web? Can we see that somewhere?
Well, no, it's Mears Music.
Mears Music, yeah.
But at the moment, it's only one CD on there. One of my more classical CDs with choir, chamber orchestra.
Fantastic.
And the other stuff which has been highlights has also been the symphonic stuff. It's about I know 10 different occasions now I've had the opportunity to perform with chamber orchestras and symphony orchestras, also to write for them. A few of those things have been published, CDs and stuff, and that's always a blast to come into that situation.
Fantastic.
And they think to them, oh, here comes a jazz guy, you know, and then they play my music and hear me playing and improvising every night. They just freak out. They think that's amazing.
They're very contrasting worlds, aren't they?
How can he do something completely different to what he did last night?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So that's Mears Music. Don't forget to. Are you on the web? Do you have a website?
Yeah, adrianmears.com.
adrianmears.com, and you can find out about that. And lastly, before you have to get out and play, I know that you're quite a teacher. I took a lesson with you, and you're probably teaching in Europe. Is there a particular philosophy or piece of advice or anything that you try and impart to your students and future musicians?
I think it's important to try to make your practice time creative, but also something that you can use that night on the bandstand. So try not to get too intellectual. Try to give everything a form, a time, a groove, so that it fits something already. When you practice a scale, try to make it creative. If it's 4 bars or 8 bars, give it a time context so you can use it straight away.
So you're always practicing things that you're going to play on the
Yeah, and that's how things grow and start. And the more you try something in one time signature, well, try it again in a different time signature. See how it works.
Yeah.
Be creative. Find the creative tools to make your practice time fun.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And practice and write is also a great philosophy.
So creativity is utmost. Fantastic. Well, Adrian, thanks. You've got an eager audience out there. So thanks for giving us 5 minutes, or a little over 5 minutes. I appreciate it. And I hope we see you again. Thank you.
All the best.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Adrian.